Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're opening up a declassified CIA file today, and honestly, it contains a genuinely terrifying prediction about the end of the world. It's a document that has fueled wild internet speculation for years. Basically, a crazy blend of real Cold War paranoia and straight-up apocalyptic prophecy.
Just listen to this incredibly dramatic prediction. An incredible mountain of water from the Pacific follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were nothing more than grains of sand. Wow, right? That comes from a 1963 book called The Adam and Eve Story. And the crazy part? The author, Chan Thomas, wasn't some sci-fi novelist. He was an aerospace engineer with degrees from Columbia University who worked on actual classified military aviation projects. And he genuinely believed this cataclysm was like right around the corner.
So this brings us to the central mystery we're unpacking today. Out of all the millions of books published in the 1960s, why on earth did the Central Intelligence Agency feel the need to classify a copy of this specific Doomsday text? Was there a grain of truth in it, or was there a totally different, maybe more pragmatic reason?
Now, you might have heard the massive internet rumors claiming the CIA was hiding hundreds of missing pages to suppress some terrifying truth. Well, let's put that to rest right now. 55. That is the exact page count of the classified document. When you compare the declassified file to the 1965 public edition of the book, it quickly debunks the whole missing pages myth. The CIA just scanned the 55-page book in its entirety. Boom, nothing is missing.
So if there's no big secret, why keep it under lock and key at all? Well, you have to consider Thomas's background. Because he worked on highly classified Cold War aerospace projects, including weapon systems and even UFO research for defense contractors, the CIA likely archived his work out of sheer caution. I mean, in the 1960s, the agency was essentially vacuuming up data on everything, even super fringe theories on extreme natural disasters, just on the off chance it could impact national security against the Soviets. The core of Thomas's book actually relies on a highly speculative concept called crustal displacement. Thomas claimed that every 6,500 years or so, the Earth goes through a sudden, 6-day chaotic reset. Imagine the Earth's solid outer crust suddenly slipping over the inner semi-liquid layers, kind of like the loose skin of an orange. This would throw temperate zones into the deep freeze of the poles and generate supersonic winds and colossal, mountain-sized tsunamis.
Okay, let's separate fact from fiction here, because virtually no modern geologist supports Thomas's apocalyptic timeline. We know through modern tectonic science that continental shifts require millions and millions of years. The Earth's crust doesn't just spontaneously slip over a long weekend, no matter how dramatic it sounds.
But if the science in the book was so completely unsupported by actual geologists, we really have to ask, was the CIA actually interested in the paranormal and the bizarre during the Cold War? Were they seriously entertaining these wild ideas?
And it turns out they absolutely were. Declassified, confirmed projects prove the government was actively researching the absolute outer limits of fringe science. They used Operation Popeye to literally try and modify the weather during the Vietnam War, treating clouds as weapons. They tested intense behavioral manipulation in MKUltra. They even researched psychic remote viewing of distant locations, including Mars, believe it or not, under Project Stargate.
Of course, the government's verified interest in the unusual helped spawn massive, entirely unproven conspiracy theories. You've probably heard of the Montauk Project, which was rumored to involve literal time travel, or Project Bluebeam, a supposed plot to project holographic deities into the sky to forge a new world order. Now, while these completely lack official evidence, they definitely stem directly from the very real, very dense secrecy of that Cold War era.
But let's get back to Chan Thomas. He wasn't just predicting the future. He argued these cyclical cataclysms had already happened before. He claimed the catastrophic resets of the Earth were actually recorded by our ancient ancestors, just disguised over time as mythology.
And when you look across totally disconnected ancient cultures, a really fascinating pattern does emerge. We see remarkably similar flood narratives in Mesopotamia with the Epic of Gilgamesh, in Hebrew traditions with Noah's Ark, and in ancient India with Manu. Thomas fully believed these weren't just campfire stories, but literal historical records of the last time crustal displacement wiped the slate clean.
Thomas also pointed to the sinking of mythological continents like Atlantis and Mu to back up his claims. But keeping ourselves firmly grounded in science here, the reality is starkly different. While the timeline of Atlantis roughly aligns with rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age, there's absolutely zero geological or archaeological evidence for sudden, fully intact sunken continents just hiding down there on the ocean floor.
Now, Thomas definitely wasn't alone in these kinds of ideas. Other authors, like Immanuel Velikovsky in his highly controversial book Worlds in Collision, claim these ancient myths were actually caused by near-miss planetary collisions with Venus and Mars. It was a massive idea that took the public by storm, well, until astronomer Carl Sagan systematically debunked the whole thing, proving that celestial mechanics simply do not allow for planets to play ping-pong in recent human history.
So, since planetary collisions and overnight crustal displacements are essentially science fiction, let's pivot to the facts. What are the real cosmic events that have threatened and could once again threaten our planet?
It's a sobering thought, but our planet's history is already scarred by actual catastrophic resets. 252 million years ago, extreme volcanism wiped out almost everything on Earth. 66 million years ago, the massive Chicxulub asteroid ended the dinosaurs. And just 12,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas anomaly brought sudden, drastic climate shifts and megafloods as giant glacial dams burst.
When we talk about threats from space today, it really comes down to a game of statistics. A 1-kilometer asteroid impact, which, to be clear, would cause massive regional devastation and global climate disruption, happens roughly every 500,000 to 1 million years. But a true civilization-ending 10-kilometer dinosaur killer, those statistically only strike every tens of millions of years.
So, the odds of a giant rock hitting us tomorrow, incredibly low. We really don't need to look up to the cosmos or dig into Cold War doomsday books for our end. Science tells us the absolute greatest existential dangers are already here, right on Earth with us.
Right now, there are 7 genuine existential threats we face in the modern era. We're talking about the terrifying reality of global pandemics, nuclear or biological war, severe economic collapse, major nuclear accidents, supervolcano eruptions, extreme solar storms that could fry our grids, and rogue artificial intelligence. These very real threats anchor the wild speculations of Cold War paranoia into a highly documentable, everyday reality.
Take that last one, artificial intelligence, for example. A super-intelligent AI wouldn't even need to be evil to wipe us out. It might just see humans as an inefficient obstacle to its goal. Think of the famous paperclip maximizer thought experiment. An AI told to make paperclips might literally strip mine the entire Earth and us along with it just to fulfill its basic code. Throw autonomous military drones into that mix, and yeah, you have a very real existential crisis.
But let's say the worst happens. What if one of these real threats actually wipes us out? Well, looking at a post-human timeline is pretty wild. Within just 1,000 years, our infrastructure and buildings would collapse. In 1,000,000 years, erosion and ecosystems would erase almost all surface traces of us. And within 10 million years, the Earth's natural tectonic subduction cycles would almost completely recycle the crust, melting away our plastics, our metals, and virtually any trace that humanity ever existed.
And that exact geological reality brings us to the Silurian hypothesis, which completely turns this entire mystery on its head. It's a brilliant scientific thought experiment asking if an advanced industrial civilization lived hundreds of millions of years ago, would we even know? The Earth's recycling process is so incredibly thorough, they could have lived, built massive cities, and died out, leaving almost zero detectable trace in the geological record we see today.
So we've unpacked the CIA's secrets, we've looked at the real science of cosmic cataclysms, and we've faced the actual threats to our future. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. If our entire history can be so easily erased by time and tectonics, could we simply be the second advanced civilization to call this planet home? Honestly, just think about that the next time you look out at a supposedly empty ancient landscape.